Who told you that you need to be saving money in order to get wealthy? Was it someone who isn't wealthy that gave you that advice? I recently had the chance to hear from Grant Cardone and Cody Sperber, who are two of the top real estate entrepreneurs and investors in the nation. And they were speaking on how to become wealthy. And when you're hearing from a billionaire and a multi-million, nine-figure entrepreneur, you tend to have your ears perk up when they're actually telling you what we've been taught is not true. And it's time to unlearn some of these things we've been taught about how to become wealthy financially. Grant Cardone says you do not get wealthy by saving your money. And a big reason is inflation and the dollar becoming less valuable over time. But you get wealthy by investing. And Cody Sperber would piggyback on that by not just investing, but also leveraging assets. So you're putting money into assets that are worth far more than you're putting into them, like a down payment on a multifamily complex or a cash flowing business. And so you're leveraging the ability to borrow against these assets that are generating cash flow. You'll see Grant Cardone rocking a cash flow hat all the time. And he's paying for all of his expenses through the passive income he generates through his investments. He even advises not to buy your own personal home. He doesn't see it as an asset. And there's some different points of view on that. But his idea is let me just invest in cash flowing assets where I get all the depreciation and tax benefits and appreciation associated with these other assets that are cash flowing, leverage those assets to pay his monthly expenses personally, like his rent on his house or whatever other expenses he has. And that's his own way of doing it. But I think it's worth taking a look at why he's doing what he's doing, because he understands how serious inflation is. But for him, if he's putting all his money into assets, not all of his money, but his active income, his earned money into assets, he understands that inflation actually benefits him by owning those assets because it inflates the value of those assets. And it's not so much that those assets are becoming worth more. There's kind of a nuance to that, because if you look at it one way, you could see it that way, but also the dollars that it takes to buy them are just worth less. So think about that too. As the money supply does what it does, are those assets becoming more valuable? Yes, their value is rising, and a big piece of that is that the value of the dollar is also dropping. So people have been indoctrinated to save money. This might go back several generations. You need to just save, save, save. But at the rate things are going and the cost of living, it's not enough to have some money saved. Your money's becoming worth less and less sitting in a bank account. And that's something people don't understand, that the bank is not just holding all that money themselves and saving it themselves. They're loaning it out and getting a large return, sometimes 10, 15, 20% or more as they're lending it out. And you're basically just supplying them with money to lend. So Grant's advice is he wants you to get your money out of the banks, get them into assets that are going to appreciate, generate cash flow, fund your lifestyle and any other projects you want to invest in. And he makes this distinction between people like in the middle class. They're earning money, which is good, but they're getting taxed on it because they're not placing it in assets that can get them a return. So his advice is to get into assets that nobody can seize and get your money out of banks. Also noting that money has to move for it to inflate. And he describes inflation as stupid people buying stupid stuff with money, usually things they don't need, liabilities, things that are not generating any kind of return. And it was kind of an eye-opening statement he made with the value of money back in 1958 to where it is today, because $100 in 1958 would be worth 4 cents today. So but it's that same $100 bill. So we have to understand that the amount of money that is now in circulation, it drops it drops its value as a commodity. Even though it can still be useful and used to buy assets, that's how it should be used. But we have to understand that holding on to cash, this idea of like preparing for emergencies, um, it's it's something that you have to consider. But if you understand how to generate money, how to earn income through your current personal wealth and place it in assets that will get you a return, you shouldn't have to have a rainy day fund. Um, Again, that's something where people might disagree on that, and that's okay. But if you understand the skills it takes to earn income, then that becomes less of a problem. And the last thing Grant Cardone talks about is just that retirement accounts he considers scams. And if you read Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game, I mean, he interviews some of the most wealthy people in the world, and there's a whole section on 401k that it's being called the biggest scam in American history, financially. But you got to factor in a lot of things with that. How valuable your money will be when you're able to borrow against it without a tax hit. And is it just more valuable to have it now versus later? Will taxes be higher then, or will your money be worth more now or later? You got to factor these things in. So I just want to give a quick rundown on some of Grant Cardone's perspective on money and assets and where we should be placing it. And if there's anything you can get from that, I hope it helps, and look into his content more. But in general, I think just letting your money sit in banks, there's a lot better places that you could be placing that money and getting a return.